Hi,
Hello.
can you hear me and see me?
I can hear you and see you. I do need to turn my volume up. Where am
Hi. Oh, it's just a shit show.
I? It wouldn't be
I
life if
had a Zoom meeting and a Zoom webinar, and I thought those could because they're kind of two different things in Zoom, and they couldn't. So I hit end and I shut down another meeting at Red Wing Ignite.
yeah.
And so that was a problem. I had to get out of the webinar so they could create a new link, and here we are.
Awesome.
So I'm in Wyoming and my connectivity isn't great. So I will tell you now that I'm praying a lot. Oh, Laurel can hear me. How can she hear me? I haven't let him in. Thanks, Laurel. How many people heard me say shit show at Ignite? I'll raise your hand. Um, this is hysterical. One, oh, someone took their hand down. Put it back up. Put it back up. 3. Interesting. Okay. They must already be in. Can you see us, Laurel? They can see us too. That's interesting. I haven't even turned you nice people on. Okay, well, hold on. I'm going to try and shut you off. Yeah, well, you've heard it before. Were there any children on? Grant Henry, thanks. Whoever you are, we're already friends. Oh, it's just Chap. Funny. So hang on a second because, oh, kidding, it's Laurel. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, it wants to know if I'm gonna go live. Oh, look, I can lower all your hands. That's cute. So we have 12 attendees on so far, Andrew.
Yay.
Oh, I can kick them off too. I could promote them all to panelists and then they could be on this party with us.
Ooh.
How are you today?
Oh, fantastic.
Good.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So clearly something, so for all of you listening, clearly something was set up incorrectly because you shouldn't have had to suffer through what Andrew and I were going to talk about. Oh, good. There's no kids so far. So they're all just chatting in. All right. Well, we're not going to get started until it's a little bit closer. So we have about 10 to 12 minutes for all of you to get yourselves a beverage and be prepared for Andrew's amazing discussion of entrepreneurial success.
Something like that.
Where are you, Andrew?
I'm at home.
Oh,
yeah.
Look at your cute bike books in the background.
Yeah.
Helmet, you're all geared up.
Already.
So, no, we don't see any of the panelists. And Andrew, do you see their chat?
I do see their chat.
Okay. And do you see that how many participants are at the bottom? Or do you only see the chat?
I do see participant numbers.
Okay. I didn't know if you would see that or not. No, we cannot see you unless we invite you onto the stage. Isn't going to happen. Well, we'll see, you know. So no, we can't see you. And yes, some of you had it on, so Laurel had it on her calendar at 3:30. It actually starts at 4. So for those of you who can keep multitasking, you've got a few minutes. So anyway, I'll say this now without cursing. I have somewhat sketchy connectivity, so my fingers crossed that it's going to stay all good. And I am going to talk about a little bit about Red Wing Ignite and Red Talks, and I'm going to talk about how you and I and each other.
Perfect.
And then I'm going to hand it over to you, and I will mute myself.
Yay.
And I will field chat as people start to chat in. But are you doing a screen share at all, or are you just talking?
No, I'm just going to be talking. I don't know how to do screen share, even if I wanted to.
Comical. For those of you that are joining in, we're not getting started for about 10 minutes. And the good news is this is all recorded, so isn't that's great. I wonder if I can edit out the bad part. So anyway, if I disappear, Andrew, you just keep punting.
Oh, great.
I'm glad you can see the chat, and I'll be reconnecting. I'm going to switch to my phone if I have to, but my hope is that that doesn't happen. I'm basically sitting on top of the router and hoping that that. Oh, okay, I think I can. Anyway, are there any bikes for sale? That's what's really important.
No, terrible.
It's an interesting part of the success story.
Oh, man.
That along came a pandemic.
Yeah.
And had you known, you'd have had 6 times the amount of bikes.
Yeah, it's been pandemonium, but
it is pandemonium. Let's see. What
are you gonna do?
Peg can see me. Good. Peg, thank you. So we are going to let folks chat in questions and comments, and Andrew's pretty easygoing, so you'll be able to do that kind of as, as the questions come up, and then I'll manage that while he's chatting. We'll try our best just to not interrupt him, but we'd love to have more of a discussion, especially Andrew's finishing with his part, and just hear your questions and answers, and I'll read the questions aloud and let Andrew respond, and we'll keep bantering, but we definitely want it to be interactive. So we look forward to having you all chime in as the time goes on. So again, we'll be starting in about 10 minutes as we wait for others to join. So I'm going to mute Andrew and do a test to make sure you can hear me.
Okay.
Good. Hopefully no one else could either. I wasn't even saying anything bad that time. Okay. Yes, Mark, I can hear your chat. It looked like you were doing something fun this weekend, Andrew. You were up somewhere out of town.
Yep.
Family.
Up north at my in-laws.
Was it a fun adventure?
It's always good to take advantage of, relatives that live on a lake when you can.
Yep. Good.
Yeah, it was fun.
I'm also, when you start telling your very exciting story, hey, Brent, you're welcome. Sorry you had to hear a cuss word. I will also off video and mute myself and not be on the camera. I made Brent's day by being an inappropriate professional. I didn't, now to say for future Red Talks, you have to be 18 to get in. No one under 18 permitted. Comical. Comical. Just think of the character we're building, Andrew.
Oh, of course.
Just think of how boring our lives were when we didn't know each other.
Right?
Just think that you were an introvert then.
Still am.
Oh, that's what he tries to tell me, everyone.
Yep. It's my story, sticking to it.
That's your story. What 4 letters?
What?
Your Myers-Briggs letters.
Oh, I have no idea. It was so long ago, I don't remember.
It's not
somewhere in this
tattooed.
book sitting right back here.
That's funny. I bet Laurel remembers hers, but I think maybe she got off for a little bit. So if all of you want to make sure you know how the chat works, I think most of you, Rich can see me, but does it mean that you can't hear Rich? Because everyone else unfortunately could hear me. So maybe he can just see us, but he can't hear us, but I think everyone clearly could hear us. I just want to make sure everyone's comfortable with the chat. And then there's also a messaging that's private, Q&A. But whatever is easiest for anyone to ask questions, just feel free to go and do that, and we will make sure you're included. We are still going to wait about 6 minutes. We might even wait. We'll wait 6 minutes. Okay, Rich can see and hear me. Rich. Just going to give it a few more minutes to let people join in that won't click start until straight up 4 o'clock Central Time. Is it a nice day in Red Wing today, Andrew?
It is a nice day. Not too hot, not too cold, sunny. It's a good one.
Looks like the heat's coming back just in time for me to come home.
Yeah. How long have you been out there?
I have been out here a week and a half-ish. Yeah, week
Awesome.
and a half-ish. cute. There's a cat.
Oh gosh, my cat.
I like it. Is it beyond the
Until it's
movie?
3 in the morning and she's doing that.
That's not as cute.
No,
Maybe she has something to offer today.
probably not.
We like having the cats on. Come on, little cat. Welcome to join us. Gonna give it a couple more minutes. I know we had a pretty good number that was registered, so I'm gonna make sure we don't leave anyone behind. This is the official 2-minute warning. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Good news is that we weren't live on Facebook. I thought your mom was registered for this, Andrew, but I don't see her logged in yet.
Oh, that's all right. She's heard the story a time or two.
You might throw in some details that she hasn't heard about.
Oh, good.
Are you back, Laurel? She's back. Well, why are you waiting any longer then? I'm guessing we'll have a few other people log on. So good afternoon, everyone. And for those of you that joined late, I'm sorry you missed the expletives at the beginning of the Red Talks, but welcome. This is Red Wing Ignites monthly Red Talk. And Red stands for Reinvention, Entrepreneurship, and Determination. So our first Red Talk we held in conjunction with the Big Turn Festival in February. And we kind of got the idea as we were talking to Sam, who's the organizer for the Big Turn, about how we could increase kind of just a knowledge component to what he was doing with the Big Turn. So we were kind of trying to identify what might be interesting to people that were down in Red Wing for those couple of days. So we had two really, really vibrant, interesting panels over the Big Turn. People in the arts community, some people that were representing Red Wing, and then Rochester, and I think Winona. And we took a couple months off as we tried to think about the direction that we wanted to go and what the theme was and kind of what the scope of what Red Talks would be. And as our team put our heads around it, we really wanted it to have somewhat of a Red Wing focus so that there would be a clear line to Red Wing and possibly a dotted line to Red Wing Ignite. So we kicked off after the Big Turn, we had Adam Gettings speak in May, and then last month we had Emily Petersen speak from the Pizza Farm in Waseca, who has a strong connection and a strong tie to Red. And so we have a long list of people that we've identified as potential speakers in the coming months. We'd love to hear from you. You will get a link to an event survey tomorrow, later today or tomorrow. Any ideas that you have? You know, our community is filled with people, entrepreneurs working hard, creating things, all different kinds of people, all different ages of people. And those are the stories that we think folks really are interested in hearing about. is being recorded and it will be shared on our YouTube channel. So it'll be up probably by next week for those folks that aren't able to attend today, and you'll be able to hear the Pastoral Talks as well. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about how Andrew and I know each other, and then I'm going to turn it to Andrew, and then we would love to have some discussion through the Q&A, the chat, and we'll just go there. And so thank you so much for being part of it today. So Andrew and I are strangers, which is sad, but we were both part of the Blandon Community Leadership Program in the winter of 2012. So we met each other there. I did not know him, we hadn't met before, and we had the privilege of sitting next to each other for 5 days. And after that, we became fast friends. And so it has been a really fun, it's fun to have a new friendship and to watch journey. So Andrew and I are both entrepreneurs, different kinds of business, different places in our business, but it's been fun to watch what he has gone through from his original bike shop in a hiatus, being able to come back and do that again and have a retail presence in Red Wing. And then I've certainly enjoyed getting to know Andrew and include him in one of my close friends. We're really excited to have you today, Andrew, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and then share your story.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for the introduction, Shannon. So thanks everybody for coming. My name is Andrew Petersen. I'm 35. I live here in town, always have, ever since I was adopted at a very young age. So I grew up in Red Wing and never expected to stay here. But here I am. I own Red Wing Bicycle Company. It's a bike shop here in downtown. My wife Tia and I, we live here with our 2 daughters, Adelaide and Gwyneth, who are 6 and 8, almost 9. So that's exciting. So getting into kind of how I got into business and how I became an entrepreneur. So I'll have to rewind back to my college days. Back when I first went to college, right after high school, took a semester off, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and then ended up going up to Bemidji State. Went to Bemidji State for about 1.5 years and decided, I don't know if college is for me, so I took a semester off. And in that time, my friend was living in town here and he was working at the bike shop in town. So I figured, well, I got nothing else to do. I'll go hang out with him. And so I just kind of hang out at the shop and putz around and be in the way. And then decided it was time to go back to school, went back to college for another semester or 2. And then in the summers, I'd come back and putz around the shop. And eventually the manager at the time said, well, you hang out here enough. How about you do something? And so I figured that'd be a pretty good idea. So I started working there. And then that became my summer job while I was going to college. After being on and off for about 3 years at college, I decided, it's just not for me. Hadn't picked a major or anything like that. And so said that's enough is enough. Let's quit spending money on something that I'm not getting anything out of, and came back to Red Wing. And so went to the easy job of working at the shop, and did that for about another year or so. And then the manager at the time, who's a close friend of mine, he asked, hey, would you like a pay bump and some more hours? And I figured, gosh, yeah, that'd be great. Let's do that. And he said, great, you have my job now. Because he was having his first child and he was moving on to bigger and better things. And so just kind of fell into suddenly becoming the manager at the shop, which really helped. It opened the door for me to learn some new things about financials and inventory management and employee management. And so that really just kind of worked out. And then I was having one of my monthly meetings with the owner at the time. And I just mentioned in our conversation of, 5-10 years down the line, if I'm still working at the shop and you're interested in selling one of your stores, just let me know. I might be interested. About a week later, he sends me an email with a purchase agreement and purchase price and everything like that. And that took me kind of by surprise, but looked it over, negotiated it, talked with my fiance, and my parents and decided to just kind of go ahead with it. So as far as becoming an entrepreneur, I really just kind of fell into it by chance. So at the age of 23, with the help of my parents, support of my future wife, Kira, we purchased the bike shop. So there are all sorts of new things that I needed to learn at that point. I needed to learn about time management, sales and use tax, federal tax, state tax, payroll processing, all the state and federal filing forms, the filing deadlines, unemployment insurance, workers' compensation, insurance in general, accounts payable, cash flow management, marketing, community engagement. I mean, the list seemed endless sometimes. So it was a little overwhelming at times. And there was a really steep learning curve, you know, a 23-year-old without a business degree or anything like that. Some things I picked up right away. Other things just went right over my head. Took some time and took a lot of mistakes to kind of get right. And I'm still learning. So it's one of those things that, you know, you're never quite done. But during that business venture, it created a lot of opportunities for me within the Red Wing community. I was able to sit on various boards and commissions and be, like Shannon mentioned, be part of the Blandon Community Leadership Program. And that really provided some really lasting friendships and relationships with other small business owners, community leaders, and just engaged members of the community, which has been hugely rewarding and beneficial both for friendships and business relationships. So shortly after purchasing the bike shop, my wife and I got married the following year. And so that was pretty chaotic to start a new business, at the same time plan a wedding and get married. It was a pretty busy year and a half there. And then 2 years after that, we had our first daughter, Adelaide, which was fantastic. I was able to bring her to the store with me. It was really great for the kind of that first father-daughter bonding time. And so it was just a lot of fun. And then 2 years after that, we were expecting our second daughter, Gwyneth. And she wasn't born yet, but it had been about 5 years at that point of owning the shop. And because of the way that I was managing my time, along with the workload required during the peak season, I was feeling really burnt out and I was feeling kind of ready to move on to something else. And so after discussing it with my wife, it was time for me to spend more time at home and try and get that regular, 9 to 5 office job. So moving on from that, I was fortunate to be able to go to work for a commodities trading company. And this was a change of pace for me. Really provided another steep learning curve for me to get used to. But I got to learn the ins and outs of commodity prices, supply, demand, logistics, payables, and really further my business knowledge in general. And so I learned a lot during that experience. Thinking about it here, the two biggest takeaways were probably to always take notes. Take meticulous notes. Reference them regularly because you'll know your customers and your customers will know you. The other key takeaway was just always keep track of your numbers. With that type of business, you're monitoring fractions of cents. And so looking at your numbers, checking, double checking, triple checking your numbers. And so those were the lessons that I learned while trading commodities that have really helped me in my current endeavors with managing my time, my resources, data, and just customer awareness. And so these have really been able to help me. And I was able to do that for around 3 years. And then the opportunity to open another bike shop in Red Wing came up with Downtown Main Street's Retail Challenge. The Retail Challenge, it would provide startup funding and resources for a new business in downtown Red Wing. Since no bike shop had started up in town, and I missed the community, I missed engaging with the community, my wife and I talked and we decided that I should throw my hat into the ring and see if we could make another go of the bike shop thing. And so throughout that whole process, I was blessed and fortunate to come out the other side and win the retail challenge and become the recipients of those startup funds and resources. Um, those resources really made opening a business so much more feasible and realistic. It provided support that would have been so helpful the first time around. And so I'm really grateful that that program that they created has really kind of pooled those resources that are available for people to reference now as you're looking to get into small business within Red Wing. It's just kind of a great little toolbox that's there and available now. And so since then, we've been able to kind of kick things off. We've been able to engage with the community. Things have felt really, really just kind of natural, and everything's fallen into place. And so since then, now we're heading into year 5 with the current bike shop. We've been able to build a business and grow a community that fosters a healthy lifestyle. And for me personally, being able to provide someone with the tools to get outside, whether it's for recreation, exercise, racing, or just transportation, it's hugely rewarding to be able to see that. And so I'm very blessed to be able to do what I'm passionate about and still feel that I'm contributing to a community, I'm contributing to people's lives, and hopefully improving them in some aspect or another. So in a nutshell, I guess that's kind of my entrepreneurial journey and where I've gone to from there. I'm sure I missed a lot of little nuggets here and there along the way, but there are kind of five lessons that I could think of this morning that I've learned along the way, and she'll kind of share those nuggets. I'm sure there's not too much wisdom in them, but the first one would be, you own your business. Don't let the business own you. For years, I put way too much time and emphasis on the business, which is important. But at the end of the day, for me, family is what's important. And so I own the business to support and provide for my family and provide for the community. But my family needs and deserves me to be present more than the business does. So as you're in your business ventures, kind of take into account and keep in mind what your priorities are. And so for me, that's been a huge lesson that's probably taken me too long to learn, but it's been really good to be able to balance those two things. The second piece is just that relationships are what make a business a business. The relationships developed by providing hospitality create a community that fosters support, encouragement, engagement, and really creates something that you can be proud of as a business owner. Danny Meyer, he's a restaurateur and a business owner. He wrote a book called Setting the Table. And in there he mentions how you make someone feel is what they will remember more than anything. And so there's all sorts of nuggets that I use from his business advice. But if you haven't read his book or heard him speak, and you're in the retail or food service industries, I'd strongly recommend it. The third piece is that the right employees are crucial. As I've heard many times, the right people in the right seats, awesome bus. Having the right employees is critical to a business's success. At least it has been for ours. As the owner, I can only do so much. There are things that I just can't do. It's important to hire the people that can do what you can't. And to put your employees first. Make sure that they're aware that they are a priority for you and that they matter as much, if not more, than your customers do, because then they're going to be happier and more satisfied, and they're going to be able to deliver a more quality product and deliver better hospitality. And so really working on coaching them, fostering any of their abilities that they have that you don't. And so one of the things that we really follow is another one of those nuggets from Danny Meyer of always be collecting dots so that you can always be connecting dots, because there's absolutely no excuse to not know who you're talking to and what's important to them. So having the right team to build and support your business mission is what will really make it an awesome bus. The fourth nugget, which for me being a seasonal business, is cash flow management. It's super critical, and it has to be watched all year long, not just during the slow times, but we monitor it every day, basically, we take a look at it to see what cash is coming in, what projected payables are going to be, and really being able to monitor that and keep it in check so that you can stay sustainable. Because being a seasonal business that's only profitable for 7 months out of the year can make that management of that cash flow kind of difficult if you order too late in the season or things like that. And the last little nugget I could think of is to really just have a plan and have a checklist or multiple checklists. Daily checklist, monthly checklist, annual checklist, but create the plan, execute the plan, review and adapt the plan if you need to, but follow the plan. So have your checklist deadlines, don't miss them. And just having a great plan is kind of that first step towards building yourself up and being ready for success. So I guess those are kind of the few lessons that I could think of that stood out to me. But I guess I'll open it up if anybody has any questions.
Those are great, Andrew. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you a couple questions before we take some of the chat. So there are a lot of businesses that don't get kind of two versions like you had. You know, you got to work and then manage and then own, and then you changed directions for a little bit and came back and had a second shot at a dream that you continued to foster. So I'm curious about the second time around, what was your biggest surprise? You obviously had a lot of foundational knowledge and experience, but what surprised you the most when you reopened on Main Street?
I guess the biggest surprise for me was just kind of how much the community, I don't know, really just supported us and rallied around us. It was one of those things where I expected kind of the same numbers that we had before. And right out the gate, we kind of blew those figures out of the water as far as sales go, which for me, I really had to kind of check and reevaluate, because I was like, well, if we're going to be doing more business, that's wonderful, but I need to hire more people, or I need to hire different people to help manage that growth that I just hadn't anticipated. And so really feeling basically the love from the community was kind of the biggest thing that took me by surprise. Is I really kind of expected things to not necessarily pick up where they left off. I, in fact, expected them to start off a little worse than where we left things off. Just, you know, whether people would be upset that we left and that we came back as this different thing, but the same. And so I was really surprised by the level of support that the community had for it. And just feel...
It's great to hear. People missed you when you were gone, and they were sure excited when you returned with something bigger and better. So when you were on Old West Main Street, you know, you were right there at where the bike is, right at the Cannon Valley Trail. And so a lot of people would assume that that would be a stronger, better direction. And this isn't a discussion about downtown versus Old West Main, but you know, to leave that space and come downtown, were you concerned at all about being a little bit removed? And what have you found, like the difference to be in your physical space, in your physical location?
Yeah, so the physical location is substantially smaller. It's about a third the size of the space that we had down on Old West Main Street. Which I was really looking forward to. It made inventory management a lot easier. From what I found is that the lack of storage is really a little bit of a hindrance. We're kind of making do, and we're looking at ways that we can reorganize things to make the space work for us a little bit more. But we've also seen some growth with the service side of things that we didn't expect, particularly this year with the pandemic going on. Has really bumped up the level of service work that we're doing, and so trying to manage that. But as far as being away from the bike trail and everything like that, I had anticipated seeing a small decrease in things like rental bikes and, you know, flat changes that would come off of the trail. But I didn't expect the amount of just walk-through traffic that would increase, especially in the off season, you know, the beginning winter months of November and December, when people are actually walking around doing holiday shopping. Because where we were at down on Old West Main Street, it wasn't necessarily an area where people would just walk around to window shop. And so being downtown, whether or not we're selling more doesn't really show, but we see more people, we talk to more people, we're able to be engaged more, and so that part has been great and a really nice surprise.
Yeah, it seems like maybe the exposure, and again, there's been a lot of changes even on Old West Main, and there's a lot of really wonderful things happening down there. But as far as just like your street traffic, it's kind of hard to compare because you just didn't have that kind of sidewalk traffic at your other spot.
Absolutely, and it's really easy to tell people where you're at when you can just say I'm next door to the Red Wing shoe store.
Yes, it's a heck of a marker. Yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
I'm right by the big boot. I'm the really bike store next to the world's biggest boot.
Exactly.
So you mentioned the pandemic. So clearly we want to talk a little bit about that. You are in, I think, what I know, a very favorable position compared to what some businesses are enduring. Not knowing, had you known, 6 months or 12 months or 18 months ago, you need to be prepared for more bicycle sales than ever due to a pandemic. You probably could have planned for that. We weren't given that kind of notice. So tell us a little bit about how your business has been impacted, plus or negative, and just, how you've reacted and what you've seen change because of the pandemic.
For sure. So overall, we're very blessed and fortunate that it has been good for our business. Um, Bike sales are up slightly. The big issue now that we're dealing with is supply chain issues. We can't get new bikes, and we haven't been able to get new bikes since about the second week in April. And so it was one of those things where we kind of started seeing signs of it maybe end of March. And so we placed a lot of bikes on back order in March and into April. And then suddenly, we kind of were trying to anticipate, the industry was. And so we placed those back orders. And then, the first week in April, everything closed up and things just turned on their head. And suddenly everything was sold out nationwide, brand wide. It didn't matter what brand or what part of the country you were in, bikes were just sold out. And so we were really banking on those back orders that we had placed previously. And then fortunately, we've been able to kind of keep track of everything, create spreadsheets, use our customer database to really keep track of the order of things, as well as kind of pre-sell or assign certain bikes to certain people, so that we can get them the product faster than maybe the shop in the cities or the shop in Rochester or in North Dakota. And that's one really crazy thing right now is we have people that we had a customer drive from North Dakota the other day. We've had people drive down from Duluth, drive up from Iowa, just because we're the first shop that they called that just happened to have what they were looking for. And
Awesome.
so that's been great. But at the same time, we have people walking in the door with $500, $2,000, and we have to say, I'm sorry, we don't have anything. We won't have anything for 3 more months. Yeah. And so that part's discouraging, to have to turn people away when they're standing there with money in hand,
yes,
looking to support you. And so that part's been challenging, but I think that we've been able to handle it really well, given the hand that the industry and that the world has been dealt with this pandemic. And so we feel very fortunate and able to adapt with that. We've seen a huge increase on service. So we're spending a lot of time on service, but now we're at a point where we can't get basic service parts. And we're hoping that'll get resolved sooner rather than later. But right now it's just kind of trying to plan or find alternatives for and go from there.
During the initial stages of the shutdown, was your business open or closed, or what did you decide to do?
So we were very fortunate that we were deemed essential under the governor's order. We fell under the transportation and logistics sector, which if you're in a metro area, yes, absolutely, because people in metro areas really use bikes for transportation. Here in a rural community, we really just kind of lucked out. We were, that hobby shop that just happened to fall under the right category, so we were able to stay open. I don't know, morally, ethically, whatever you want to call it. I struggled with it a little bit at first, just because I wasn't sure, if it was the safe and socially conscious thing to do to stay open. But fortunately, we were able to take the proper precautions, and we're a low volume store as is. So we were able to make sure that employees were safe, customers were safe. and kind of go from there. So yeah, we were very fortunate to be able to be open the whole time.
That's great.
And we did see a decent drop in revenue, especially in the first part of April when things were so unsure and all the new programs were being announced. Because week and a half, week into April, we were down 70% on the year. And so,
Wow.
I mean, we were really freaking out that
Yes.
this is going to be the worst year ever. We need to find as much, assistance as possible. But
And we do have a question in the chat of that. Did you participate in any of the COVID-19 financial programs? And if so, were they helpful?
yes, so Red Wing's very fortunate that we have the Port Authority here in town, and they offered a huge program that helped so many different businesses. But we were able to participate in that and get some funding from them. And the way that the funding was structured, the amount that we got was forgiven upon receipt. So that was amazingly helpful, especially when it was so unsure. And that was actually the first financial assistance we were able to get.
Were there other programs that you attempted to receive and did not?
No, they just took a lot longer than we expected. So the Paycheck Protection Program, we submitted our application, we missed the first round. And so then with the second round, we were able to kind of get things pushed through at a lesser amount than what we were hoping to get, but it's still been hugely beneficial to kind of get us through that first scary hump of things and kind of keep us on track. And then with sales, finally turning around and coming up, we were able to kind of recover a good chunk of that. So.
Are you anticipating you will hit your goals for 2020 or at whatever you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wanna say yes, but the fact that we can't get bikes right now, we can't get parts for repair bikes. The next 2 months, which kind of close out our season, are just really uncertain, and so
Sure.
I'm not sure kind of where we're going to end up at the end of the year. So we're really trying to plan and mitigate risk and make sure we're not, freaking out and buying too much stuff now because we can get it. And then suddenly we don't need it anymore. So.
Are you hopeful? It seems to me that with the current situation in the world, that this being, all this energy that's going towards that families and individuals and maybe people that never had one or people that have more time, that it's going to continue, that there's a momentum that's going to build and continue. Are you forecasting that into 2021, that you believe that as well? Or what do you think about that?
It's really hard to figure that out. The industry itself is really kind of guessing and trying to get that nailed down. It's one of those things where if the people that are getting into it really stick with it, it'll be fantastic for the industry, and it'll be fantastic for people in general. They'll hopefully be a little more healthy. They'll be getting more active, and so that would really be phenomenal. From a business perspective, you're really not sure. You really kind of want to I guess balance the risk and reward of bringing in a ton of inventory next year versus being overloaded with things and not being able to send product down the road because either the market's saturated with used product or people lose interest, or all those people that were maybe on the fence this year got tipped over with the pandemic, and so sales that would have been averaged out over the next say 2 years all happened this year. And so it's kind of tough to gauge, and I really don't know where things will fall. And so it'll be one of those things where we'll probably be conservative about it and just kind of stay the course, do our normal purchasing plan that we would expect with a normal rate of growth, and just kind of see where we land. And hopefully inventory levels will be better in check next year.
Oh, it's going to be really interesting. Hopefully, it will be a trend that grows, and that will make for a strong 2021 for you. So yeah, we'll hope that that's the case. So a little bit about just bikes. What's happening in the bike industry, or things that you're seeing, or you see coming down the pike, aside from pandemic discussion, but what's happening in the bike industry, especially in our region?
Yep. So I guess for our region and just the bike industry in general, is e-bikes have just taken off. They've become hugely popular with baby boomers, younger generations who are commuting, trying to get rid of the car usage, things like that. People that are really trying to both get out and be more active, or people that are getting a little older and want to go the same distance in the same amount of time, and things like that. So that's probably been the biggest change for our industry.
What would you tell someone that thinks they're interested in investing in an e-bike?
Just to basically try it. They are hugely fun. My wife has one. It's one of those things that it just makes riding more enjoyable, especially if you're not serious about it. So if you're not an enthusiast and you just want to be able to get out and you want to ride from home down to the trail, ride the trail, and then ride home, it's Red Wing. So just about everybody lives on a hill. And
Yes.
so just being able to use the extra oomph when you can, when you need it, it just makes riding a lot more fun rather than getting back at the end of the ride, which is the only hill perchance on your route, and you're out of breath and you feel miserable at the end, whereas the other 90% of the ride you felt great.
Yeah, they seem to be really, really popular. And as someone who's not a biker, they're very intriguing to me. But it's a big investment, and so you'd want to make sure that it's the right fit for you.
Yeah.
We had a question about whether or not you're doing any e-commerce, if you're selling anything online.
We're not really. So it's very expensive for us to participate in e-commerce. Figures wise, I want to say it's about $1,500 a month to be able to have that online catalog and ordering capability, which from the industry perspective, it works really, really well. It inputs both our inventory as well as our vendors' warehouse inventory. So people can order things. It could ship either from our store or from our vendors' warehouses. And so it's a great program, but locally, I just don't think that we would see enough volume to even have it come close to paying for itself. And so we don't do any e-commerce now, just because it seems a little cost prohibitive. Through our main vendor, Trek, you can go on their website and order a bike online. It just ships to us at the store, and then we assemble it, and then we give you a call, and we can either deliver it to you here in town, or you can pick it up at the store. So,
do you make the same amount of money if it's ordered on their website as would if they came in your store and selected it?
We make a little smaller margin. So it's one of those things where we prefer to sell in store, but e-commerce is really a great option. And it's one of those things where we check it every off season just to see, is this something we think could really, is this the tipping point basically? Is this where everybody goes to shopping online? And we just haven't seen that yet, at least locally.
And does Trek guide you, or do they give you any kind of analytics from people who may be searching for you or in the area, or is that something that you get that information?
They do, yeah. That's one great thing about both our point of sale system as well as Trek as a vendor. So Trek actually owns the point of sale system that we use, which is designed specifically for bike shops. But they provide a huge amount of tools and analytics software, so we can really analyze all that stuff down to whatever metric we want to track.
That's awesome. There's a couple other questions from the audience. One about the new bicycle fabrication program at Minnesota State College Southeast, how youth impacting both the local and the regional bike industry.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not sure how it's really impacting it necessarily yet. They're just kind of done with that first semester of the program. I believe they have their second group of students coming in here in the fall. And so it'll be really interesting to see how it impacts things, to see, if independent bike fabricators, start popping up in town or not. I think it'd be amazing if they did. Selfishly, I think it's fantastic because it gives me this whole pool of potential employees that are relatively skilled and knowledgeable. And so that part's been hugely beneficial. One of my
Did they seek you out, any of them, when they got here last fall?
Yep.
Did they?
Quite a few of them. And it's one of those things where we're such a small store, we couldn't hire all of them. And so the downside is I had to be kind of choosy. But yeah, the main employee that I have now, he's a participant in the program. And he is just a huge asset to what we do.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think we're only see it grow. This is the second full year, and so there will be a new batch of students, and then students finish up the program next spring. So
Hmm.
it'll be fun to see, and it would be wonderful if a few of them would stick around and make this area their home. Another question from our audience is, does your shop for bike sharing?
We don't. Normally in the season, we offer rentals.
Okay.
Um, and this year we just aren't offering rentals with COVID because we can't guarantee the cleanliness, the safety of the bike itself. And so rather than trying to adhere to whatever guidelines X or Y are suggesting, we're just staying away from it for this season. But normally we do rentals. Um, and so it's one of those things that we don't offer a bike share program. I know for a while, what is it, maybe a year or 2 years ago, there was the Red Bike program in Red Wing that some younger college age students created. But I don't believe that's around anymore. But that was the closest thing that Red Wing had to that.
Okay. Yeah, good. Right now, if you had to say what your next biggest challenge, like COVID aside, which is really difficult to do, but looking at next even 1 to 3 years, like what do you see as your biggest challenge as an entrepreneur?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure. The next biggest challenge I would think is just really figuring out our storage problem. Just because right
Okay.
now we have storage spots for about 50 repair bikes. In peak season, at any given time, we have 80 to 100, 120 in the store.
Wow.
So I just don't have space for them all. And so figuring out kind of where things can go, how orders can be received and accepted. You know, if we get a shipment of 15 boxes of bikes and then we get a shipment of parts and we have a huge volume of service work, finding the space for all that without, well, it doesn't happen without cluttering the sales floor. The sales floor is just cluttered and it's hard to navigate and get people the things that they need. So our hospitality and our service is really lacking when things like that happen. And so really being able to figure out how we can do that is the next biggest step.
You have to call those nice people on the corner, Ferns Furniture. That should be enough for you.
Yeah, I'd say
And then you
so.
could sell couches as well.
Oh, exactly.
Lots of square footage. And just for folks to know that are on, welcome to chat in or message in any questions. We're kind of doing a mixture of audience questions and note I had. We have a question about whether or not you have, or whether you do offer scooter rental, like the Lime scooters that many people are probably familiar with. And have you considered this as a potential pivot addition to your business at all?
We have considered it. So we don't offer scooter rentals. We probably won't offer them. If I'm thinking of the correct example of those Lime scooters, they're electric powered scooters.
Yep, all over the streets.
Yeah, and so for right now, we actually, as a bike shop, depending on our insurance coverage, which right now it does not include, the ability to work on throttle-based motors. And so we can work on our e-bikes, which are true pedal assist e-bikes, but anything that would have a throttle, we're restricted from working on because it becomes such a liability for us. A lot of those bikes or scooters are manufactured with standard bike parts, and they don't take into account the extra torque or power that those throttle-based motors can add to it. And so it stresses the system and can potentially create a hazard that insurance really wants us to stay away from. And rather than pay the extra premium required to be able to work on those things or to offer those things, we've currently just shied away from that. And a lot of that has to do with our current workload. It already kind of has us mixed out with what we're already doing.
Mm-hmm. And of course, as I'm sure most of the people on here know, every city has handled them differently. So if the city of Red Wing thought it was an okay idea, do you think it's a fit for Red Wing, the scooters?
In my opinion, I guess I would say no, just because downtown, especially in the summer and during fall tourist season, it becomes so congested. And especially since we always have road construction, because it's Minnesota and those are the seasons that we have. It seems like there's always some point of congestion, and adding in that small, more nimble motorized vehicle could really create some injuries and some potential hazards, in my opinion. But it's one of those things that I think is good to look at and keep an open mind about.
A question from one of our audience members is, do you work with other vendors besides Trek?
Yes, we probably work with 50 other vendors. A lot of them are smaller parts companies. There are probably 3 other large bike companies that we work with. And by large, I mean they're very small compared to Trek. But there are some other brands that we can get a hold of that we just don't stock many models of, but we can get them. And then we have various parts suppliers and direct manufacturer suppliers and vendors that we work with as well. Majority of our business does go through kind of that vendor distribution model, but there's a lot of things, especially with the current pandemic, where the distributors can't get it. And so they've actually referred us to the manufacturers to get it direct from them because we can get it a little bit faster. And so we do work with quite a few different vendors. Trek is the primary vendor. It makes doing business just a lot easier from a management standpoint, where, since I'm the owner operator and we don't have a designated purchasing manager, inventory manager, it really makes things a lot easier to keep in check. By dealing primarily more with 1 or 2, and then just using the smaller vendors for those necessary special orders.
So if you had a crystal ball, wouldn't that be lovely? And you were looking into it 3 to 5 years from now, what would you want to see for your business? How would you measure something successful or exciting or growth or change? Mm-hmm. Is there any idea to have about what that would look like for you?
The biggest thing I'd like to see, in the future is being able to really hire more full-time staff, so that I can not take a back seat, but so that I can really kind of work more on the management side of things, community engagement side of things. That's the part that I really want to be able to dedicate some more time to. Whether it's community programs or outreach or kind of teaching or basically just kind of advocating towards outdoor recreation in general. That's something that I would like to see happen here in the coming years, and it'll just kind of depend on where business trends go and how things progress.
And obviously, you are limited in your current space. Do you envision a time and where you might want to convert another location, or whether that be a second location or a larger location?
Yep, it's one of those things where it's kind of always in the back of the mind of looking for a little bit larger space, figuring out what could work for us, what kind of layout would we need, service area side, retail size sort of thing. And really being able to kind of find that balance. But it's something that we kind of reevaluate in the off season. And so in the next 3 to 5 years, I would anticipate seeing some sort of change there one way or another. But it's just one of those where you kind of have to wait and see what's available and what financially makes sense and all that.
And you've had 2 very different physical, both size and layout of your space, and then physical location. And so it's nice that you have seen kind of different variations, and you would maybe know exactly what you'd want for spot number 3.
That's hugely beneficial, having the knowledge of what happened in the first space and what's happening now, and kind of basically trying to find a balance between those 2. Because before it was probably 4,000 square feet of space, and so
you could have been running a taco bar in the back.
Ooh, I could.
One of our audience members is asking about Trek tours through Red Wing and the surrounding areas. I don't know if that means there are Trek tours like sponsored by Trek, or if you're just wondering, would you be wanting Andrew to do or lead a Trek tour through Red Wing? But anything related to that, Andrew?
I guess as far as being able to lead tours or, guided rides and things like that, it's one of those things that I'd love to be able to do. Facilitate group rides and things like that is kind of that part of that community outreach piece that I really want to be able to spend more time on. But right now I'm just limited, especially during the busy season when everyone is actually riding and wants to ride, is when I'm just kind of stuck at the store during our hours and everything like that. So it's one of those things that I'd like to see occur. As far as Trek coming in and doing those themselves, I don't foresee that happening. They do have a branch of their business called Trek Travel. Technically, it's a completely separate business, but it provides guided tours through Napa Valley wine country, locations in Italy and in France, different routes kind of in the west and down in the mountainous areas of the east and things like that. And so those tours are amazing, and it's basically a guided luxury tour. And so you eat like a king, and you get to ride your bike as much or as little as you want to. And if you don't want to ride, they'll throw you on a shuttle. But as far as offering Midwest tours, I can't say that I see them, taking that step.
And I'm sure you are well connected and immersed in the local biking community. Can you talk a little bit about what Red Wing has to offer from kind of that perspective? What is the biking community like? Different kinds of trails or different kind of paths? What are options for people that both live here and visit here that are bike enthusiasts?
Yeah, so I mean, the most well known is the Cannon Valley Trail, along with the Hay Creek Pioneer Trail. It's that perfect opportunity for recreational cyclists. So if you want to come, have a quiet ride along the river, something like that works perfectly. The nice part about Red Wing is if you go 3 miles in any direction, basically you're going to hit country roads, whether it's a paved country road or a gravel road. And so gravel riding is huge in this region. And then we have Wisconsin, just across the river there, and they have phenomenal road riding. So many of their county roads are paved. They have nice big shoulders in comparison to some of the Minnesota roads that are more rural. And so the road riding out there is phenomenal. And we're really fortunate in Red Wing to have mountain bike trails, which not a lot of small communities have. And so we're really, really fortunate to have a local group of volunteers that build and maintain those trails. And so we have a lot of opportunity for cycling in Red Wing, and we have a lot of groups like the mountain bike organization. There's a road group that typically meets on Wednesday nights, and things like that. And so there's a lot of enthusiasts here in town. And that's one thing that I kind of see is lacking, is just kind of that cohesive, unifying piece, that is one of those things that I want to be able to spend some more time on to try and help facilitate if I can.
Are there still the trails out at Welch Village? Do they still have mountain
So
biking where you like
currently the
ride up
mountain bike
this
trails
chairlift?
out at Welch, the trails are currently closed. I had heard it was for the season, and then I heard it was indefinitely, so I'm not sure exactly where that's at right now.
Okay. Obviously, for people who are bikers, you know that it's a year-round sport. For those of us that aren't bikers, I'm fascinated with you and your fat tires out there in the snow. So just a tiny little about the fat tire and the year-round bike community. I mean, are a pretty good size number of people that are out there riding 12 of the year?
Yeah, there's definitely a group. I'd say it's a small group of enthusiasts that really do ride year round. They'll use those fat tire, 4 or 5 inch wide tire bikes for riding throughout the winter, whether it's on a groomed snow trail, or a lot of people will use them on the gravel roads that are snow packed, or even just some of the paved roads. But it really enables you to use cycling as a recreational opportunity year round. And so it's one of those things that really opens the door to being able to do that, rather than, if you don't ski, what can I do outside, sort of thing. And so a fat bike really just opens the door and offers that opportunity to be able to really do it all year round.
I'm probably the only one on the call that doesn't know the answer to this, but is a fat bike actually from bike, or do you put different tires on an existing bike?
It is a completely different bike. The frame has to be designed around that fatter tire, and then the pedals need to get wider and everything like that to accommodate. So
I learned something today.
There we go.
We're certainly winding down in time. If there's anyone else that has anything they want to ask in the chat or the Q&A, I'd be happy to share that with Andrew. You did talk a little bit about community involvement. Want to give us just a rundown, things that you're currently involved in?
So right now, I'm able to sit on the United Way board. And so that's a fantastic organization that really helps a lot of both individuals and other groups within the community. Recently, I've been able to sit on the Port Authority board. And so that's been phenomenal to be able to see some of those financial programs and things that they're doing for the community of Red Wing, both to attract businesses as well as support the ones that are currently here. And it's really great to see the work that they're doing there. I sit on the mountain bike club board. And so really just being able to be in touch with them as far as their volunteer, their work, the trail work, the project planning and things like that go into it, and communicating with the city and everything on those projects to make sure that the city approves of everything that the mountain bike organization is doing. Has really just been great to be involved in those community aspects.
One of the things you talked about was because of how much time you're having to spend leading in your own business, the convening of the community. So how would you go about that? How would you pull those bike groups there or connect with the program at the college? Like if you had the time, how would you convene that community?
Yeah, I think the big thing is just being able to communicate with them and having the time to communicate with the various groups and have forums and posting areas that these different groups can reach out, get a hold of one another, basically advertise for their ride or what event they're doing and things like that, and just really being able to spread the word. And so if I'm able to find the time, it'd be fantastic that I could, either help broadcast that or help facilitate it, or whether or not I'm the one coming up with the event or the ride, being able to really kind of publicize it and get it out to more people so that we can kind of increase people. Because we have I know so many of my customers and so many of my friends that go, they'll go out on a ride, 2 or 3 of them, and then there's another group of people that are going out on a very similar ride with another 2 or 3. And it's like, well, we could all just get together if we're able to have a space where we can all get together and talk.
I'm always thinking too, because I'm not a biker, nor may I ever turn into one, there's a chance, but just like if someone was intimidated, like they don't know anyone in the rural biking community and they wanted to get started, like where would they go, or who would meet with them and go over some basic things? So it seems like there's a real opportunity for that. And I hope you'll be able to find time or have others in your network be able to do some, because I think bringing all those people together would be a real asset.
Absolutely. I think it'd be really good for the community in general, just to have that. And even just for recreational rides of, hey, we're doing a slow roll Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. Come, we're all riding together. It doesn't matter if you're fast, if you're slow. We're going to go ride to wherever, get some coffee, get some brunch, and ride back.
Yeah, because I think it'd be really, if you really were interested, I think it'd be very intimidating initially.
Absolutely.
So someone just chatted in, how about a Red Wing road bike club?
Yeah, absolutely. It would be, I guess technically there already is a Red Wing road bike club.
Okay.
It was formed a long time ago, and it really kind of took an online presence in kind of one of those group forums. Then it transitioned a little bit to a Facebook, and then it's transitioned more towards the people that were involved really just kind of messaging one another. And so really being able to kind of bring that out into the public space, I think would be great to kind of foster that and bring them to the forefront of what's going on.
Seems like even if, I know different with COVID, gathering people, whatever, but even in the fall, as there's still some time to be outdoors, if there was just an afternoon in one of the parks where it's like calling all bike enthusiasts or anyone that wants to be, let's just get together, meet each other, talk about, how we can bring this a little bit tighter. Because you say as that group has ebbed and flowed, it probably would be hard for someone to figure out how they could engage with them, if they were interested.
Absolutely. So yeah, it'd be great to be able to just kind of bring some unity to all of that, and get people that want to get together the chance to get together. Obviously with COVID, that's tough, but
yeah, it is.
but
And
hopefully
especially with the second year at the college, so in a new class of bike builders,
mm-hmm.
and just getting many of them not from here, so coming from other places and how they get connected to the community. So I hope that something like that can be figured out, and if there's ways that any of the organizations that you know about could support you, downtown Main Street or the Chamber or Red Wing Ignite or whoever, I just think it would be great. Live Healthy Red Wing. What a great initiative. So that would be fun.
Absolutely.
Well, I certainly appreciate your time and your sharing. I think your story is incredible. I think it's not always does someone have a path like yours. And I think you've just done such an amazing job. And I didn't know you as a person before in your business really, like I do now, but I think you have grown so much as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a community member. And I'm grateful that you're here and your business is here, and also that we're friends. So thank you for taking the time today. Thanks for those of you that have dialed in, and know that we will have this whole thing, not the beginning, we're going to edit that out. We'll have the whole kids safe hour to our YouTube channel, and we'll be using bits and pieces of that. We aren't in a position to announce our next Red speaker, but we are going with this third Tuesday from 4 to 5 Central Time each month, and we look forward to having other entrepreneurs tell their stories. So thanks everyone, and a special thank you to Andrew. Everyone clap where you are. Thank you so much for being so open and for sharing and for making time.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Everybody have a good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.